vulnerability. I'm going to keep throwing this topic at you guys in a bunch of different ways and through a bunch of different frameworks, hoping that it strengthens and deepens your understanding. And or if I didn't get you on the 4 to 5 other times that we spoke about it, maybe I can illuminate it for you in a different way here. So hang with me, because I think that this is really powerful. Vulnerability, what that really does is it creates a meeting ground for safety. That safety is what facilitates the environment for communication. Communication is what builds connection. And the more connected we are to those that we love, the more deeper that love is going to be able to strengthen, build, and grow. So vulnerability leads to safety. Safety leads to communication. Communication leads to connection. And that connection is the cornerstone of love. So let's say I come up to you and I say, hey, John, tell me about one of those times that you got your heart broke. If you and I don't know each other that well, John, you're probably going to say, what's this big bald guy doing coming up to me telling me, hey, share a story of when you got your heart broke? But what happens if I go up to John and I can see John as, maybe he's looking a little down, right? I say, or maybe I know that he just got broken up with, or whatever the case might be, right? And I say, hey, John, I don't know if I ever shared this with you, man, but what got me into working out was this girl named Allison, who was my first girlfriend, broke up with me in high school. And I was just freaking devastated, man. You know what it's like. You're in high school, you think it's your first love and it's going to be your love forever. And she just crushed me, dude. I was so down and out. And it was at that time that I just started working out. I found out that the gym was really that healthy outlet for me. And before you know it, I was over Allison and on to Susan, right? John, it seems like you're feeling down and out, man. I'm here to hold some space for you if you want to talk about it. Now, in which of those situations do you think John is more likely to want to communicate with me about how he's feeling sad or depressed or lonely? If I come up to him and I say, hey, dude, get your stuff together here, man. What's going on? Toughen up. Don't forget about her. Or if I'm vulnerable and I share with John one of those times where I got my heart broke. That's the power of vulnerability, because now John is going to feel safe because I was vulnerable first and I opened up and shared with him. Now that's guy to guy. Let's talk about spouse. Let's talk about partnership. If I go to my wife and I say, listen, I'm feeling really lonely right now. And, this happens from time to time where this will come on. I know this doesn't have anything to do with you. This goes back to my abandonment and feelings of sadness surrounding the death of my mother when I was a kid. And, I just want to be vulnerable with you and share with you that that's how I'm feeling. I'm feeling lonely. Wow. You know what's going to happen if I go to my wife and I say that? Versus, I don't understand. Why aren't you spending time with me? I don't get it. Oh, you're with your kids, right? What about Ryan? That's not going to feel like a safe environment for her to want to engage with me. I see this so often in my work, guys, that us as men is very often that we go to that default of right? Although human does not or is not optimal for creating that safety. And for women, feeling safe is the fundamental bedrock of being able to have that deep communication, they've got to feel safe. They've got to feel safe. So that vulnerability creates the safety. That safety is then what opens up the communication. You see very often in the work that I do with couples, if they're both going at each other, maybe they're both in their own trauma triggers, right? And they're both going at each other. Nobody's feeling seen and heard. I like to do a this. They're doing this, right? They're not having each other to feel seen and heard. And be vulnerable with you. It happens with me, with my wife as well, right? I'm always trying to screen that and check that, right? Are we going like this right now? Because if we're going like this right now, because the environment doesn't feel safe, the communication is not going to be effective, and it is highly unlikely that we're going to be able to resolve whatever it is that we want to speak about. So that vulnerability creates safety. That safety is what facilitates that communication in a healthy and an emotionally regulated way. Now, once that communication happens, now we can begin to create that connection, that deeper connection. Very often in the work that I do with couples, I'll have the couple come to me and say, yeah, we feel really disconnected from each other. He's been doing this and she's been doing that. And, we've got kids and busy schedules and all of that, right? And that connection gets lost. So there's some aspect of, there's the pragmatism of life. And if you've got kids, there needs to be a focus on having that time to connect. But there's a whole other part that is very often missing, which is the power of vulnerability as it relates to being able to facilitate that safety for then the communication to the connection. And in that connection, that's what it's all about. That's the magic sauce. That is the cornerstone of love, is to feel connected to somebody. And that's love in a whole wide range, right? It could be you feeling connected with your coworkers. Could be you're feeling connected with your spouse or with your partner. Could be you're feeling connected with your bros, right? Having a couple of drinks, hanging out with the guys, you feel that sense of connection. As human beings, we're social creatures. Having that sense of connection is so important. Having that ability, having that awareness to realize that at the deepest, that comes from living from our heart, that comes from being vulnerable and creating that safe space.